Really appreciate that. Um, I think that's basically it. We'll pass it over to the tech guy who knows it all, for our library head of the technical field, Jim Barnes, and I'll let him take it for here because I know he'll need some time for a topic this large and for lots of questions. So welcome, Jim, and thank you.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me again. Yeah, like Jack said, I'm Jim. I manage the public technology department here, so we help everyone in the computer lab with their computers. And we've seen quite a bit. My staff and I have seen quite a bit of our topic today, which is online scams um, and malicious content on the internet. This is part of our Grain of Salt series that Jack and I put together. So, all about taking things online with a nice, healthy grain of salt. So you don't want to be too fearful, but there's some good best practices. Things to avoid clicking on and doing while you're online that'll help keep you safe and keep your computer working well. So I got a slideshow for you here. And there's plenty of information. I do not know all the answers. Some of it gets pretty dense, but we got a lot of information here. And like I said, like Jack said, we'll try to keep some room at the end for questions. Hopefully, I'll go ahead and share my screen. Can you see that slideshow there?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great.
I can.
All right, so avoiding online scams. Take online messages with a grain of salt. Whoops. So this presentation is largely based off of the resources available on the FTC website, Federal Trade Commission. They have a great website with lots and lots of information. It's really easy to understand, um, and it's very deep. You can kind of keep clicking on links and going to new pages and finding out more and finding out more, but it's all written in a really understandable way without a lot of jargon, and I found it really helpful and really trustworthy. So I'm going to break this down into two types of threats here. Threats, things that can be harmful and malicious when you're using your computer, your phone online. I'm breaking this down into two categories: malware or malicious software, and scams. So they're very related, but malicious software is something that installs on your computer and does something bad. And then scams are something that's been around longer than computers. You don't need a computer to scam someone. So just because you have like a antivirus software installed on your computer, you might not be protected from scam from giving someone your information. So that's our two categories, and we'll start working through the definition here of malware. Malware is short for malicious software. So it's designed to disrupt, damage, or gain unauthorized access to your computer. So malware includes viruses, spyware, ransomware, and other unwanted software that gets secretly installed on your device. Once it's on your device, criminals can use it to steal your information, send you unwanted or inappropriate ads, or even demand payment to unscramble data. Criminals use appealing websites, desirable downloads, that's a big one to me, desirable downloads, and compelling stories to lure people into links, to lure people to links that will download malware, especially on computers that don't use adequate software. So how does malware get on your device exactly? It can get onto your device when you open or you download attachments or files or visit an untrustworthy website. Your device might get infected through clicking on links in fake security pop-ups, clicking on ads on websites that you visit, phishing emails, which we'll get to later, that trick you into clicking links or opening attachments, downloading free stuff like illegal movies and TV shows or games, downloading files from peer-to-peer sites like some people call them torrent sites. They might be called uTorrent or BitTorrent sites. There's a few examples here. You all might not be doing that too much, but that is a way that you download files not from a company or an organization, but from another person on the internet. So there's no way to trust whether it's safe or not. So, back in 20 years ago, whenever Napster and people started downloading MP3s, there was a big boom in these kind of sites, and you could download movies for free, but it would often, maybe not often, but there's a big risk of it containing some type of software that you don't want in there. So again, it gets on your device when you click on links like in a pop-up, like especially like a fake pop-up that says there's something wrong with your computer. Clicking on ads, I would call them sketchy ads. Ads from untrustworthy sites or that just look untrustworthy. Kind of have to be discerning. Emails that trick you into clicking on links or downloading or opening attachments, and websites that offer free stuff like movies and TV shows or games or software, and the peer-to-peer sites. So here's some tips on how to avoid it. Guess what we all want to know. Scammers try to trick you into clicking on links that will download malicious software, often by bundling it with free downloads. So don't click on pop-ups or ads, especially about your computer's performance. Instead of clicking on a link in a suspicious email or text, you can type the URL, so the website name of a trusted site, directly into your browser. So if you got an email from the IRS and you wouldn't want to click the link in the email, you'd want to go to irs.com or whatever the trusted website would be and just go to it independently like that. So don't click on the links in the emails or texts. You want to get well-known software straight from the source. So if you're downloading Zoom on your computer, you would go to zoom.us, I think that's their website, and you click download Zoom on that website. You wouldn't want to get it from a third-party website that has multiple software or bundled with other free software. You just want to go to zoom.com or zoom.us. Read carefully when installing software and don't install bundled software if prompted. Like if it says install Zoom and also this other thing, that's not what you want to do. Most likely. All of this is just kind of a, best practices. There's always exceptions to everything, but it's usually how it works. You do want to keep your operating system on your computer up to date if possible. Now, this is a pretty big topic, I think, because your operating system, people that write malicious software, they are always like changing it and coming up with new ways to write it. And the companies like Microsoft and Apple, their operating systems actually try to defend against it. And that's a big part of your operating system updates is they'll come out with security patches that will address new security concerns. So if you don't have the latest operating system, it could leave you vulnerable to the latest malware. But that is kind of a big could, because I think, because sometimes you have an older computer and it might not be able to download the newest operating system. And sometimes, you might not want to download the newest operating system right as it comes out because there might be like a bug in it or something that makes your computer not work quite as well. Just kind of something a little bit wrong with it. So, I mean, really the above steps, in my opinion, this is pretty much opinion. I don't think you're going to find companies that tell you not to install the latest operating system. But personally, I tend to wait a little while to install the latest operating system until like Mac or Microsoft gets their bugs worked out. But these first few bullet points here of not clicking on pop-up ads, not clicking on links in suspicious emails, getting software straight from the source, being careful, very careful when you install software, those are actually will protect you for the most part. But if you do happen to inadvertently install something malicious, then keeping your operating system on your computer up to date will definitely help defend against that. And then also you can keep your browser's default security preferences high and pay attention to warnings. Like sometimes if you're using Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge, it might say this website isn't trusted, and you can just go back to the previous website and not go any further. Sometimes you just have to exercise some restraint. That's where that term earlier I think is important. Desirable downloads. When you're on the internet, sometimes you're shopping for something or you're trying to get something done. You're like you really want what you want now, and sometimes you just have to back out of that and say, not today. This isn't going to work. I'm going to be patient and maybe even ask someone else what they think about it. So these are signs to look out for if your computer is behaving erratically. So how to know if you have malware. Your computer may suddenly slow down or crash or display error messages, or it might not shut down or restart. I've seen this a lot on phones. It won't let you remove the software. Like there might be an app that someone downloaded that's kind of again, like scammy app that won't let you remove it once you install it, and it'll make pop-ups appear on your phone or your computer. Sometimes there's a way to remove it, but it's difficult. It can be difficult. Your computer might serve up a lot of pop-ups or unwanted or inappropriate ads. It could show new and unexpected toolbars or icons in your browser or on your desktop. It might use a new search engine. Like all of a sudden, it'll default to using a different search engine when you go to search for something. Like if you type in the search bar at the bottom left-hand corner of your Windows computer, it might use a search engine that you've never heard of instead of using Bing, which is Microsoft's usual one. It might keep changing your computer's internet homepage. So when you open up your internet browser, it might go to a different homepage than you're used to. Or it might run out of battery life more quickly than it should. Because that would be like your computer is working on something in the background that you don't realize is happening, and it runs down the battery. So if you are feeling ambitious and you want to try to remove malware or check for it, if you really think you have it on your computer, the best thing to do would be to stop shopping and banking and doing other things online that involve using your usernames or passwords or sensitive information until it's cleared of malware. Make sure again that your security software is up to date. So I have a slide about this coming up. Windows has Windows Defender built in to Windows computers, Microsoft Windows computers. Yeah, you've probably all heard of McAfee and Norton, but a lot of operating systems actually have quite a bit of security already built in, but it can't really help you against the latest malware threats unless it's up to date. So that's just ideal to have it up to date. And make sure that all of your software is up to date. Like that might include your operating system and other apps, like other applications on your phone. Consider turning on automatic updates and just allowing the apps and the operating system to update automatically. This really works best when you have a newer phone or a newer computer. It gets a little harder if your device is getting like 5, 6, 7 years old, because that new software might kind of bog it down because it's hard to run the new software. Even if it's safe, it just requires more processing. You can scan for malware using a trusted application and delete anything that it identifies as a problem. So there's applications out there. I don't have a list of those right here. I could work on getting that to folks if they want a list of a few trusted resources for scanning for malware. Probably should have that on here. Or you could reinstall your operating system. You'll lose all data that's not backed up. So that's an important reason to back up your computer periodically, because trying to remove some computer virus or malware can be very confusing and difficult. But what's not all that confusing necessarily is if your computer is backed up and you have a recent backup of all your data, even if it's just, saving your documents, all your documents and your pictures and movies, and dragging them over to an external hard drive and just saving that on a hard drive, then, worst case scenario, you can just reinstall your operating system. And it's just called restoring your operating system. And you'll put a brand new operating system on your computer, and it works kind of like the day you got it. And you may lose some settings, and you may lose some, like, your family's photo on the desktop might not be there anymore, and might have to reset that and some things like that. But you can restore your computer back to the way it should be relatively simply, because it's not an obscure thing to do, is to reinstall your operating system. So, but you just need to make sure your computer's backed up. But sometimes it might just take like an hour or two to do that. So it's honestly kind of a good, I wouldn't consider it a last resort, because it's kind of simple and straightforward to some extent if you're having serious problems. So, do you need third-party security software? And this is where it seems like you could have a whole program just on this. And I honestly, this gets beyond my depth. I don't run a security software company or anything like that. But on a Windows PC, we tend to tell people here that Windows Defender, which is built into the operating system, especially with Windows 11, is usually sufficient. For ideal protection against the latest threats, you'll need to keep that up to date. So your operating system will need to be fully up to date. But that, like I said, that becomes less feasible as your computer gets older and has trouble running the newest operating systems. But we see, I'm sure you're all pretty aware, like you'll see a computer and you buy a new, especially Windows computer, well, like primarily only Windows computers, they'll come with a security software bundled in there when you buy it. And that's like Microsoft has gotten together with McAfee or with Norton or these other companies, and they've made a deal to put their security software on this laptop. Or it could be like Dell. So it's a Dell laptop running a Windows operating system, and they get together as a company and they say, hey, McAfee or Norton, we're going to bundle your software on our laptop. And maybe they probably get like some percentage of the sales that are made from people using McAfee after it's bundled on the laptop. It's kind of taking too long to explain, but I think we all know what I'm talking about. You get the McAfee on your laptop, you don't necessarily want it, but it's working for the first 6 months, and then it stops working and it keeps prompting you to order it. And that's what we get a lot of questions about. Like, do I need that? And we usually tell people that just the Windows Defender is fine. But if you really wanted to have the best that there is, then McAfee and Norton can be good products. But they can also cause some other issues, like making your computer run slower because it's having to process things that you're doing. Again, this isn't really my area of expertise, but if your McAfee or your Norton is out of date, it's not necessarily the end of the world. Your Windows Defender and your Microsoft operating system and just practicing the tips that we already talked about is most of the battle, I would say. And on Mac computers, no, you don't need third-party security software. Apple computers are more expensive, and they really pride themselves on their security. Their operating system is only used by their computers. So it's a closed system. The company makes the computers and the company makes the operating system. And because of that, they don't even let anyone make software for it that isn't already approved by them. So it really keeps their malware issues very minimal. And the security is already built into their operating system. So for ideal protection, you want to keep the operating system on your Mac computer up to date. So for phones and tablets, if you have an Android phone or a tablet, there are various products available. The ones that I mentioned already, there's Bitdefender is one of them, and there's Link. This entire presentation, I put a link to it at the top of the chat. So I would highly recommend just downloading this entire presentation. It's full of links to resources, and especially the FTC resources I was mentioning, and you can read about it and refresh yourself afterwards. So yeah, for Android phones and tablets, there are apps, and there's, McAfee and Norton and Bitdefender and various products. But again, I would say that it's not necessarily essential if you follow the proper prevention measures. But it is an option if you want to have the best security. So again, keep your operating system up to date and download apps only from the Play Store and click only on trusted links. So if you're on an Android phone and you're on a website, don't download software or an app from the website. Go to the Play Store. The Play Store has apps that are more trustworthy and have been vetted. Maybe not as much as the Apple ones, but better than links on websites. Phew. So Apple iPhone, no, you don't need security software. iPhone malware is very rare. So follow the proper prevention behaviors that we talked about and keep your operating system up to date. And if you get a message saying your iPhone is infected, the message itself is likely the malicious thing. It's not. It's probably not. So that's almost kind of a catch-22, because what would it be doing malicious if your iPhone doesn't get malware? But you can still enter in your personal information or something like that into a website if you click on a pop-up. So
Excuse me, I'm going to interrupt just 1
yeah,
second
please.
because you mentioned the slideshow and downloading it. For those of you that are a little confused or having a little issue trying to figure out to do that from the chat, because we'll be getting off of chat at some point. I have downloaded it. When I send out the film of this, I will send that as well. So that'll give you a second chance to grab it if you didn't grab it this time. Sorry, Jim.
No, not at all.
Yep.
I needed a break. So
Okay.
start sharing my presentation again. Do you see that again?
Yep.
So yeah, for help, if you think you might have a problem with malware, a lot of people will tell us here at the library that their computer has been hacked or their email has been hacked. And honestly, I think people have some different definitions for what that word means. Sometimes they'll say that just when they kind of lost their password. They'll say it's been hacked, or like if they think someone else is using their account, maybe, which that would be getting hacked, but sometimes it's hard to know exactly what's going on. And sometimes it's just your computer being slower with age. Sometimes it's the newest operating system will kind of bog down your computer because it can't really handle it. But if you need professional help, we have our technology one-on-one appointments here at the library that you can sign up for. They're 1:30 and 4 o'clock, Monday through Thursday. I will say though, I'm almost hesitant to put this in here because if you have a serious problem with your computer, like that's infected with a virus or something serious, we really, our staff doesn't really have the expertise to necessarily fix that, and we actually make a disclaimer that we can't fix faulty, like broken. We don't work on broken hardware or like faulty devices, but we could definitely, at the very least, just give you a second opinion. Sometimes you just want to ask someone who has a little bit more experience, and we can point you in the right direction. And what we do quite a bit is help people maybe back up their computer, or like if you needed to, like I was mentioning, reinstall your operating system, which would kind of wipe your computer and start it fresh again. We could help you either do that or get started doing that. Sometimes that process can take like a couple hours. So it's an hour-long appointment. So you want to be realistic in what you can accomplish in an hour, but we can definitely give you some pointers and give you some our opinions about what you should do. If you need someone to fix your computer, I have a couple of links here. These are well-known Lawrence businesses. You have Dr. Dave. Dr. Dave's done some programs for this group, I think, in the past. Best Buy, Geek Squad, I think most people are familiar with that. There's one, U-Break, iFix, and Budget Repair are two other ones. I'm assuming those businesses would take a look at your computer if you thought you had malicious software on there that was causing a problem. At the top here, it says, if your device is under warranty, you might be able to get free tech support. That seems pretty rare. I don't know what the warranty exact details are for every computer and brand for sure, but that's a tough part about computers. You're kind of on your own to some extent after a certain amount of time. I would say, these are just thoughts of mine. We see a lot of computers here, and a lot of folks are kind of holding on. I was texting my dad this morning. He has an iMac that's, I think it's 8 years old, and I was telling him that's getting up there. And sometimes you just need to buy a new computer. You'll spend a lot of effort trying to get your computer to run more quickly, or by freeing up space, or by thinking you might have a virus, and sometimes, these computers are kind of built to last probably we try to replace them here at the library every 6 years for a Windows computer, and every like 8 years or so for a Mac computer. So sometimes it's just that, and it's no fun, but computers have gotten relatively affordable, and there's things like Chromebooks that are pretty affordable, and even cheaper Macs that are like MacBook Airs that are pretty affordable. So just saying, sometimes people really hang on to their computer for a long time, and it's almost like causing them more grief than $500 new computer might. So when you're searching for help with your computer, this kind of starts bringing us into our second category. You want to be careful to avoid tech support scams. So tech support scammers want you to believe you have a serious problem with your computer, like a virus. They want you to pay for tech support services you don't need to fix a problem that doesn't exist. They often ask you to pay by wiring money using gift cards or other prepaid cards. Wiring money, again, or using a money transfer app. So I've actually even helped someone with this here at the library. They wanted me to help them on the computer, and they were on the phone, and I don't think they had a little trouble understanding English, and I talked on the phone with an individual on the other end of the line, and they wanted us to install some type of tech support software on the computer. And I let them know that this isn't a reputable phone call that we're dealing with here. And it's very hard to be aware of that in the moment, because I think it's really hard to kind of even believe that you're talking to someone on the phone that lies for a job, and they just are persistent, and they don't seem bothered by it, and they don't want you to hang up, and they don't want you to turn off your computer. And it's kind of hard to believe, it's I think that's a big part of it, because in the abstract here, while we're talking about it, it's like, oh yeah, that would never happen to me because that sounds really fishy. But in the moment, it's like, it's hard to believe that someone would bold-faced lie like that to that extent. So even me, when I was dealing with that phone call, I was really thinking about it for a while, like, what's going on here? I was trying to figure out what was going on, and it took me a while to realize what was going on. So that would be a tech support scam. And usually that would come from like a pop-up on your computer saying there's something wrong with your computer, and you click on the pop-up and it might tell you to call a phone number or something like that. And then when you call the phone number, they might want to get access to your computer to download software. So legitimate tech companies won't contact you by phone, email, or text message to tell you there's a problem with your computer, which is part of the reason why we're kind of on our own, because like companies they don't really do that. Um, and security pop-up warnings from real tech companies will never ask you to call a phone number. So if you spot either of these things, you know it's a scam. And again, it's hard to remember all these little details, so please download the slideshow. You can refer back to it. So that is, again, like I said, bringing us to our second bucket of malicious threats, which is scams, online and other scams. Because scams can be online, and there's some parts about it that are new with computers, but then there's some parts of it that have probably been happening for thousands and thousands of years, you know. So some of it is some good common sense and taking your time and being taking it with a grain of salt. So what is a scam? It's obtaining money or personal information by using deception. That could include fake personalities or even fake photos, like fake profiles on the internet, fake emails that appear to be from a legitimate company, fake template letters, forged documents, non-existent phone numbers, and non-existent addresses. So here's 4 signs that it's a scam. And yeah, so scammers pretend to be from an organization you know and trust, like Social Security, IRS, Medicare, maybe a bank, a mortgage company, or an insurance company, or a tech company like Google, Facebook, or Netflix, or I should have put on here, or PayPal, or Venmo, or something like that, like a trusted tech company. A tech support company or security company, like pretending to be from McAfee or Norton, or like the tech support scams we just talked about. A utility company, like your internet service provider or your cell phone company, or maybe even a charity seeking donations. And that's kind of what all those things have in common, is you tend to trust all these organizations. And so that's why they pretend to be from the trusted organization, so that they gain your trust. And this is the really good stuff here. And you can ask yourself this question when you're dealing with something that seems a little suspicious. Scammers often say there's a problem or a prize. So there might be a problem with your account, or they might say you owe money, or someone had an emergency, or there's a virus on your computer, or you're in trouble with the government, or there's a prize and you won a lottery or sweepstakes, or there's money waiting for you that you have to claim, but you have to pay a fee to get it, which would be a very desirable thing. I actually helped someone on the computer maybe Monday. They were looking at an email, and they wanted me to help them print out or access a site that was telling them that they had money waiting for them, and they had to log in and give their information to get the money. And I just told them, this doesn't look like a legitimate email. I would delete that, you know. And they said, "Oh, thanks," and they did. um, So the third sign is urgency. Scammers, they often pressure you to act immediately before you have time to think. So if you're on the phone, um, they'll tell you not to hang up. And if like that tech support scam I was dealing with, they were telling me not to turn the computer off. Said, no, don't turn the computer off, whatever you do, because they really wanted to access the computer. They might say your computer is about to be corrupted if you turn it off, or hang up. They might threaten to arrest you, sue you, or take away your license. That sounds pretty scary. I haven't seen that personally, but that sounds like the scariest scenario there. Okay, so here's the last one. And this, I've seen this as well, personally in the computer lab. Scammers tell you to pay in a very specific way. So by wiring money, like Western Union or MoneyGram, or using a payment app like PayPal, Venmo, or Cash App. Now these apps have some security built in, but it's harder to get your money back than it's not easy necessarily. So they might want you to use PayPal or Venmo or Cash App. They might want you to put money on a gift card and give them the numbers on the back of the gift card. I've seen that personally here. Someone had some gift cards and they had scratched off the numbers and they had given it to someone online. And someone wants to send you a check that will later turn out to be fake and then tell you to deposit it and send them the money. So again, these things are not, that thing is not necessarily new. It's probably existed for several decades before the internet, but it makes it a little easier when the internet is very anonymous, probably. So we'll go into these a little bit more in detail coming up. So the most common scam here is called email or text scams, otherwise known as phishing. Like the scammer is phishing for a catch. And phishing is a type of online scam that targets consumers by sending them an email that appears to be from a well-known source, an internet service provider, a bank, a mortgage company. It asks the consumer to provide personal identifying information. Then a scammer uses the information to open new accounts or invade the consumer's existing accounts. And so that used to be mostly by email, and now you could even get a text like that. I don't get those too much. I'm not sure if you all do, but you know, you can click on a link in a text and it'll take you to a website, and then your phone is a computer and you can give away your information just like that. So be aware not only of emails, but texts as well. Phishing red flags. These are things to look out for. If an email or text says you have money waiting to be claimed, or it might say they've noticed suspicious activity or login attempts, or there's a problem with your account or payment information, or it might say you need to confirm some personal or financial information, or it might want you to click on a link to make a payment, and that would be probably installing malware. So these things are very related, you know, a scam and malware. Malware can be part of the scam or not, depending on what type of scam it is. It might say you're eligible for a government refund or offer coupons for free stuff. So here's an example here. At first glance, this email looks real, but it's not. Scammers are hoping you won't take the time to notice that it's fake. So let's look at it closely. It's a little blurry, sorry, but there's a generic greeting. It says, "Hi, dear," which Netflix would probably address it to you personally, or it would be addressed to like Netflix users or something like that. It says your account is on hold. So the first thing I would do is I would, you know, maybe log into Netflix and see if it worked. Like I'd go over to my TV and try to watch some Netflix and see if it was working. And if it was working, then I would think this is suspicious. But I wouldn't click on anything in the email first. It invites you to click on a link to update your payment details. So that's what it's doing here. It wants you to click on that red box and say, update your account now. And that would probably take you to a site where you put in your credentials. And then at that point, maybe your credentials are the same credentials as your email address or something like that. And then they would have important information. So real companies will never email you or text you with a link to update your payment information. As far as I know, the way it usually works is the company will tell you to go to their website and update your payment information, but they won't ask you to click on a link through the email. So that's the thing to be careful with, is clicking on links in emails and doing things. Maybe not, just clicking on a link might not be the most dangerous thing to look at a website, but clicking on the link and typing in information or downloading and installing things, that's when it's really that can be a problem. So another thing you could do is open up another tab in your browser. You could go to netflix.com and just log in to your account and then see if there's a problem there. But again, you're doing that independently. You're not doing it through the suspicious email. So here's a second example. This looks like it's from a bank. The first thing I notice at the top, and this is actually one of the best tips, is the exact email address that the email is coming from. So it says Bank of America. It says it real big on the page. And it says it in the from box at the top, but the actual email is something obscure. crvdgi@comcast.net. It's not bankofamerica.com, because that website, Bank of America owns it, and not anyone can just email you from that website. So that obscure website is a big red flag. I'm not sure why this George Wazin has a box around it. That maybe the name, maybe your name isn't spelled correctly or something like that. There are grammatical errors further down, like dear member would be capitalized, and then there could be large misspellings or smaller grammatical errors, like there's a comma instead of a period down in the paragraph, and there's a link that it wants you to click on the link to sign into your account. And if you hover over the link with your mouse, it will actually, on most systems, it'll show you what the actual link you're going to is. So the link on the page is called http www.bankofamerica.com, but the actual link, if you hover over it, it'll pop up and say that the link is actually this, bit.do/something obscure. So it's not actually bankofamerica.com that you're going to. Another quick example, this is like a longer email. I'm not sure if these are quite as popular anymore. It seems like these used to be, there's like a little old-fashioned, but this email is I won't take the time to read the whole thing. You can take the time to read it yourself, but it's saying that a jet crashed with a lot of people, and this person is a lawyer, and they've taken it upon themselves to trace the next of kin, and you're the next of kin to claim this sum of 85, is that million? Wow, 85 million, $85,500,000. And you have to claim it in 3 weeks' time. So there's the urgency. And at the end, it even says, note, this business is 100% legal, risk-free, and should be handled with urgency and confidentiality. So some of this just kind of comes from living on the earth for a bit of time, and using your common sense to spot things. If it seems fishy at all, it probably is when it comes to the internet. This last one is for a student at a college, and it says your account has been compromised. We might get something like this at the library from time to time, and we'll email our IT administrator and say, hey, is this real? We might get something from our HR company or something from our email provider that says you need to update your username and password. So again, this is very simple. It's just your account has been compromised. type in your username and password here and hit reply. That would be like the most basic way to have a phishing email that you could have, because people might just respond with their username and password, and then you can log into their account. So another thing that we see here a lot at the library is people with a lot of passwords. Like, people take their passwords very seriously, and they have different password maybe for every account, and their passwords are really long, and and even if you write them down, it's kind of a headache. And that's fine and good if you can keep track of all those passwords, but I would honestly say, just my opinion, that being careful about things like this is more important than having really long passwords and having like a different password for every single account. I personally don't do that, and I've never had any problem. Most people I know that don't have issues with it, because you could have all the passwords you want, but if you you know, give them to the wrong person or type them into the wrong website, it doesn't matter. So I would say that this is almost more important than having like a really long password. So I'm keep going here. I'm going to blaze through it. If you suspect you have been a victim of a phishing attack, ask yourself, do I have an account with this company or know the person? And if no, it could be a scam. Proceed very slowly and carefully, and look for all the signs we covered earlier. And if you do know the person or the company, contact them using a number or a website you know is real. So I already said that. You could go to netflix.com and call that number, or go to netflix.com and log in there, but don't click anything through the email. Some of this is starting to repeat a little bit. So be wary of messages asking for passwords and personal information. Reputable organizations usually won't ask for this information via email. Never send passwords, bank accounts, or other private information in an email. That's a pretty big one. Even if you're sending it to your friend, it might be okay, but it's like best practice to not send your account information and bank account information in emails to people, because if that email was to ever get read by someone else somehow, they would have your information. Do not reply to requests for this information. Verify by contacting the company or individual, but do not use the contact information included in the message. Sorry, that's repeating. And I like this one a lot. Get a second opinion from a friend or a family member. Sometimes just saying it out loud. Have you ever had that experience? You just kind of say something out loud and it makes you realize, oh yeah, like it sounds fishy coming out of your own mouth, and you kind of realize, gives you some perspective. And it also allows you some time to slow down and not be hasty with a decision to click on something. So if you think you responded to a phishing email, you can go to identitytheft.gov and take specific steps based on the information you lost. If you clicked on a link or opened an attachment to download harmful software, you can update your computer's security software. There's information on all these links that's more information about these things. And you can run a scan to remove anything that a malware scan identifies as a problem. Here's a few other scans. I don't think we have time to go into these. I was wondering if we would, but they're all there for you to check out. There's an out-of-the-country inheritance scam that's very classic. This is often like based out of Nigeria historically. Someone might email you saying that there's a royal family and some type of inheritance involved that you need to claim. Again, there's more information here, but it's a very classic email scam. Bank loans and credit card scams, lottery scams, like if someone says you won the lottery. Romance scams, so like if you're on Facebook or a dating app, the person on the other end of the line might not be real. They might be trying to scam you, and they might want your personal information. Fake antivirus software, we kind of already talked about that. So if you get a pop-up that says there's something wrong with your computer, install this antivirus software, but actually that is the problem. Facebook impersonation scam, like someone else hijacking your profile. Make money fast. So if someone says you can make money fast, then it's probably not real. There's a lottery scam again. I wonder if that's the same thing. It's a repeat. Travel scams, fake news scams. Again, I don't quite have time to go into all these, but you can feel free to check out these links. Fake shopping websites. We'll talk about that in a second. Loyalty points, phishing scams, job offer scams, text scams here at the bottom, which we've kind of already talked about that because they're kind of the same as email. The same rules apply. So yeah, when you're shopping online, I think everyone kind of understands you have to be careful shopping online because you're giving people your money, you're entering in your credit card information. And while it's mostly surprisingly safe to do that online, honestly, you have to be careful and use discernment. If you come across an item on an untrusted retail site, like something you've never heard of, basically, like if you're going to walmart.com, it's probably fine. But if you're looking for something and you can't find it anywhere else, and you Google that thing and you find it on this obscure site that you've never heard about, ask yourself, is this in short supply? Like am I looking for a PlayStation and they're all sold out everywhere, but this one site has it? Then that's a red flag. This one actually is a bigger red flag. Is the price much lower than other sites? I was just talking to Nicole, one of our technology assistants, and she said, yeah, I was helping someone. They were trying to buy an Indian percussion instrument of some sort, and they found it on the site, and it was way cheaper. And they really wanted it, but that site had all these hallmark red flags. The price was way cheaper than everywhere else. And she had to tell them this is not a reputable site. Is the item being advertised on social media? Maybe it doesn't mean that it's malicious, but it's not a great sign. These are really helpful, I think. Does the site show you a full street address of the business? Like take your time and look at the footer or look at the contact information. Is there an actual address? And if so, you can actually use Google Street View and you can type that into Google and you can look at that business. Or it might just be a residence, and that would be a big red flag. Does it have a contact email address? And does that email address match the website? So if it was Bank of America, if it was trying to look like Bank of America, or if you were trying to buy something and it was trying to look like Walmart, and you looked at the contact email and the contact email wasn't walmart.com, it was some other email address, that'd be a red flag. And does the site's phone number match that of a physical store? So basically just really looking at that contact information and trying to see if it looks like a real place. So IRS, sometimes people impersonate the IRS because people get really scared about the IRS and they'll give their money away. The IRS will not call to demand immediate payment or call about taxes owed without first having mailed you a bill. So they don't call out of the blue on the phone. They won't demand that you pay taxes without giving you the opportunity to question or appeal the amount. They won't require you to use a specific payment like prepaid cards and wire transfers. They won't ask for credit or debit information over the phone. And they won't threaten to bring the local police or law enforcement to have you arrested for not paying. So those are things that people use to scare people. We help people fax a lot of stuff to the IRS here, and they use a lot of faxes. So it's really a pain, but they don't take your phone number or your credit card information over the phone, and that's one of the reasons why. We're almost to the end here, so thanks for bearing with me. This is, I think, the last one that I'll talk about. I had a friend that I played music with, and this happened to him. He was selling a bass amp, and if you're using Facebook Marketplace or using Craigslist, this is a common scam. We actually touched on it earlier. So you're selling something online, and the anxious buyer needs it immediately, and they might send you a check and have you send the item, and that's not very complicated. The check bounces after they already have the item. That's one way to do it. But they also, it can get kind of complicated. They can send you, what happened to my friend is they said they were going to pick it up next week and drive through town, and then they sent him a check for like more money than it was worth. So let's say like $1,000, but it only cost $600. And the extra $400 was kind of like to hold it for them. And then they said they're on the way, and then he sent them like the refund of the $400, and then the check bounced after that. So it can get confusing, but if anyone wants you to send them a refund for an excess check, then that's a scam. And so just be careful on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist, especially when dealing with people out of town or using checks. Here's a couple of resources. I won't go into these, but I found these. They look pretty good. Web of Trust is a browser integration that helps you tell if websites are trustworthy. So is Metacert. It's another one like that. Truecaller is an iPhone app that stops mobile scam calls. So that's a trusted app for iPhone. That has to do with scam phone calls. And if you need to report a scam, here are the links where to do that. These are all FTC links, so you can let the authorities know. And then at the end of this document, I won't go into it here, there's a recap, a downloadable PDF, and then we have some stuff about telephone scams and robocalls, some information about that. I will just do this real quick. Can you see this screen?
Yes.
Okay, this is in summary. This is what we covered here. 4 signs it's a scam. They pretend to be from an organization you know and trust, like the FTC, Social Security Administration, IRS, Medicare, bank. They say there's a problem or a prize, or that you're in trouble or that you owe money. They pressure you to act immediately. There's a sense of urgency before you have time to think. And they tell you to pay in a specific way, by wiring money or using gift cards or something like that. And the rest of this is about blocking phone calls, so that doesn't necessarily pertain. So yeah, that's a little summary there for you. Sorry, I never seem to have quite as much time for questions as I'd like, but
Well, we'll go over if we need to, because I'm sure there'll be some questions. I will mention a few things that were put out earlier. Um, Chris mentioned that he's had a lot of luck with uh, phones and his hardware under warranty at the Apple Store here in Leawood. So that's if those have that situation. And then we also had the statement that Ellen put out, which is really good, that a lot of the companies like PayPal, Amazon, etc., if you're getting something from them and you want to question it, you think it's a scam, they'll have an address to send the email to, or send a document or send a statement to, and you can do it. She asked about the U.S. government. Jim mentioned some things. Most federal government sites have a scam button on their front page. Social Security, for example, does. So if you're getting something about Social Security and you think it's a scam, you can pull up the socialsecurity.gov site, and right there it says report a scam. So, that's helpful to kind of answer those questions. And Jim gave you some more information. So let's see. We also have a comment from Betty. If you are ordering a product from a company that you have used, a page appears and it says on this page only, wait a minute. I want to make sure I'm reading it correctly. And my thing is kind of sliding around here a little bit. Let me get back here. You've used a page, used a page appears and it says on this page only, and they offer a new product. Then you agree to check it out and give your credit card when you call. When you call the original company and ask if this product is sold by them and they say no, your credit card company calls and says that there is a suspected fraud and wants to know if it was or not. I said yes. I ordered, but after I talked to them, oh, sorry, the page appears. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting this is kind of long. I thought that my card had been stopped, but the amount charged got transferred to a new card, which I had not received yet. Um, Yesterday, I received the product, but have not opened it as I do not want the product since I think it was a scam.
Hmm.
So that was a little confusing, my reading of it, because I had to scroll and my computer's not acting like I should. So if you don't understand that, Jim, I can have maybe Betty can.
Well, I love the input that everyone's had up there because yeah, there's a lot to it. And I mean, luckily credit card companies are not new to this. So if you're using a reputable credit card, then they usually have a good amount of security features built in. So if you have some money stolen on your credit card, they can usually refund you your money. It might be a headache, but I've had that happen to me a little bit in the past, and it was pretty not too bad. That's all relative, but that's why scammers want you to pay with a wire transfer or gift cards, because if you use a credit card, then you can go to the credit card company and they'll take your money back. Um, it's complicated, obviously. There's a lot to explain there, and I'm no expert, but that's why they don't want you to use credit cards because those companies are pretty good at this point with that. And they'll even, I think most of us probably have experience with that. They'll like message you if they think, if you're out of town, like or out of the country and you start using your credit card, they'll like message you and ask you if it's really you and things like that. So that's a benefit of using credit cards that helps you not get taken by scams.
Are there more questions? I know this was a lot of information. Chris, I had an issue with Visa on my recent trip to Italy. I can tell you all if you're interested. So, Chris, you want to unmute and give us a brief explanation?
Yes, briefly. Went to a restaurant in Rome, and 3 hours later, I get a message from Visa saying my credit card was used in Ireland. So I obviously was very wary, and they stopped the credit card immediately. And I was issued another one, but not till I got home. So I went and did some investigation at the restaurant, and the manager came out and he said that he didn't know until my query that their credit card processing was through the Bank of Ireland. Can you believe it?
Hmm.
So the strange thing was that Visa didn't recognize that the card had been used in Italy and not in Ireland, and so provoked all that anxiety in the middle of the night. However, so I was told that in this country, I believe there's a company called Square One, which often does a lot of processing. They have a similar one all over Europe, but they use the Bank of Ireland to do their processing.
Hmm.
It was strange that the restaurant didn't put its name on the credit card when I made the payment. So a lot of anxiety, but it ended up being okay. But anybody else going abroad to Europe, watch out for that.
I would go with the better safe than sorry. That they, took it seriously and did something about it, even though I know getting a new card is a pain in the butt in the middle of travels. That brings up another point I will mention. Most our bank account and many of them are very aware of use in other cities, and you'll get messages for them. But when you travel, it's always a good idea to contact your bank. Most of them have a link on their website and say, I'm going somewhere, I'm going to a certain place from here to there, because then they'll recognize charges from a distant city and realize it's not a big issue unless they're unusually large amounts. And I've gotten calls on even from local places when I'm there that, you had an unusually big bar tab. We won't go there. But my point is that banks are getting very good at notifying you about that generally. And I would rather have to wait for another credit card than have it turn out that it was a scam in Ireland. But I appreciate Chris's thing. Any other questions? So much information today. I am going to be sending out the recording of this. I will send out the PowerPoint so you'll have access to the links. And I think in this particular case, I'm going to be sending it out to our entire membership, because I think this is important enough that if people didn't tune in, that at least they can delete my email, one of the many, or they can take advantage of it, whichever they choose to do at that time. So I really want to thank Jim. This is a huge topic. Maybe down the line we'll break it down even more. We have a couple more of these that Jim and I worked out in the next 2 months coming up on Tech Club, and we have guests from the KU School of Journalism to talk about various scams and problems and issues and advertising nonsense to come up at least in the next 2 months on those. You'll notice that I think May is going to be on the second Friday, not the first Thursday, because we have to accommodate a faculty member's teaching schedule. But those are yet to come, and we'll continue this entire topic of being taken advantage of somehow in marketing, advertising, or internet. So I want to thank Jim for his job tonight. Huge topic and really difficult to at least give us a start on this. And I want to thank you guys all for attending. So we'll see you at the next event. And if you have any further questions, once you get this recording or you get the PowerPoint, the library is very available. They may not be able to solve it, but they can probably direct you to somebody that can. At least they have the experience of knowing, where to go, if nothing else. And that's a very important first step. And as the whole scheme of this thing, take everything with a grain of salt. Don't be afraid to question price is too good, timing too short, money too large, whatever it is. Always take things with a grain of salt. So thank you for attending, and we'll see you all at the next event.